Hello, this is Christian Muenzner from Obscura, and you're listening to Metal Wani.
Oh, yes, sir. How are you doing?
Good, how about you?
I'm doing good. Just back from work. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, just finished teaching today, so everything's good.
Wonderful. Oh, what can I say about your solo album, man? It's blown everybody's mind.
Really, thank you so much, man. I'm really glad to hear that.
You have got a response from your fans and your critics. Everybody, almost everybody knows an impact Beyond the Wall of Sleep has made. So how does it make you feel? You've delivered something which has crossed expectations.
Very good, actually, because it's when I'm writing an album or when I'm recording an album. I mean, in the beginning, when I finish a song and I decide I'm going to record it, then at that point I'm really happy with the song and I'm convinced that it's really good. But then you keep working on it for a year or a year and a half, as I did, and you hear it so much every day, all the time, that after a while you can't really judge anymore. You're like, is this really good now, or and you really can't judge anymore at all how people would react to it. And I mean, when I write music, I don't do it to like meet the expectations of anyone, because I just write what I want to hear. But and it's also that the bands that I'm in, the music is very different than from what I do on my solo record. So many fans of that genre of music probably are not so much into what I do. So it's a very positive feeling for me to get such a great feedback, which is like for the most part really overwhelming.
That's awesome. Now, even Time Warp, which that was your first solo album, which you released last year, and now Beyond the Wall of Sleep. So, if you have to, if for somebody who's not aware or who hasn't heard your music, how would you describe your albums?
I would describe it as it has elements. I'm a big fan of these the records that the Shrapnel label group put out in the 80s and 90s. So it's I definitely think that my music pays tribute to that to a certain extent, and that influences there pretty much all the time, and I combine it with more modern elements. I like everything from 70s hard rock to like technical death metal and anything in between. That's good. And basically when I write, I don't restrict myself to a certain genre, and all those influences also shine through, but the majority of the music is what you could compare to those older records, if those guys probably had the influence of the more modern stuff that came afterwards. And I also think that compared to like the bands that I'm in, the music most of the record is also closer to maybe like power metal and progressive metal than it is death metal, even though there's a couple of death and thrash metal elements here and there, of course.
Absolutely. Now, while listening to the album, there's something very unique about it, as even though the pattern seems to be similar, but there's that unique touch. There's that Christian Muenzner's, that special touch which makes them feel different, and something which is very rare, in terms of how one explores his musical aspects.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably, as I said, it's maybe just because I don't really think of limiting myself to a certain spectrum range of influence, and then just everything that I grew up on and that I like probably shines through, and I'm pretty sure that my influences are always quite obvious, but still, since I don't really, it's not like, I think it's not like I would sound like a ripoff of someone, even though I wear my influences on my sleeve. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you don't try to exactly sound like that one guy, but that you let everything that you like and that you experience in music very much influence you. And I think I always believe that if you do that, it will lead to like some type of unique voice after a while.
Right, that's true. And now you being a guitarist, you've seen a lot of people who play guitars, who are basically guitar players, are more inclined towards speed and technicality. But when I listen to Beyond the Wall of Sleep, let's keep the speed and the technicality aside. You managed to retain your melodic sense. Now nowadays we know people lose that factor in the quest for speed. So
exactly, I think especially nowadays, this is my biggest complaint with like where instrumental music is nowadays,
Right.
because it's like, of course there's a lot of promotion stuff on YouTube, and what happens then is people get attracted by the obvious elements very quick. When someone plays super fast, they're like, wow, this is awesome, but they don't really listen to the song or to the riffs, and very often I think the music suffers from that. And actually, when I wrote that record, the solos were the last thing that I thought about. I wrote it more as if I would write for a band, for me it was more about the riffs and the melodies, and I added the solos, that they were the very last thing I added, whereas probably on my first record still was a little bit different, because back then I rather wrote songs to showcase what I had learned, but nowadays I think I'm more concerned about the song as a whole, and not so much if I put everything that I know into my soloing.
Right, I understand that. Now for me, Time Warp is an absolutely brilliant, let me put it this way, shred-tastic album. And you have definitely raised the bar with Beyond the Wall of Sleep. Now, Time Warp had so many styles, so many amazing guests, some really crazy shredding, not only on the guitars but also on the keys as well as the bass. I mean, you also got the mighty Derek Taylor to solo on your album.
Yes.
So very underrated music in my opinion. So
absolutely.
Derek has always inspired you, since you were young. How does it feel to have him, solo on your album?
It's pretty much unbelievable. I mean, when I did that record in 2010 or 2011, and if someone had told me that maybe like 10 years ago, when I was studying Derek's material, if someone had told me, well, one day this guy will play on one of your records, I would have said no way. I mean,
right.
Even though that guy is not well known, but he's like in a totally different league and totally untouchable, and it makes me feel very honored actually that he put down a solo on one of my songs, and I mean, it's also something you can forget that really quick,
Absolutely,
it becomes normal, and I'm like, so I did this record, and then if I think about it, Derek Taylor played on that record,
I understand. What about Jimmy? He's become my favorite, keyboard player. I love his work. So, and I'm sure you also love, his work, and you also made him solo on almost every song on, Beyond
every
the Wall of Sleep.
Every song except for one, I think, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Jimmy was when I first heard of him when I heard the Spastic Ink record, the second one was called the Incompatible, I think, or Incomplete. I think the second one was Incompatible, and and I always loved the solos that Jimmy did on that one from the first moment on. And we have a common friend that's a guy called Fountainhead, also a guitar player from Germany, and he's been working with Jimmy for a long time, and he told me that Jimmy likes my music and would like to work with me, so we got in touch. And when I had the first song written and just a demo, I sent him the demo. I was like, I really liked it, and he was like totally into it. And then from then on, we pretty much worked that way. That whenever I had a song written and had demoed it, I sent it to him. He laid down his solos, and everything progressed from there.
That's wonderful. Now we have Hannes also there, Linus is there, Jimmy is there. So all of them have their own styles in terms of from their respective projects. But somehow it seemed to flow naturally on this particular album. So was it more like telling them what to do, or they were the masters of their own instruments?
Well, it was what I wanted this time. As you said before, in the first one I had a lot of guests, and I had different bass players, for example, different lineups on each song. And this time I wanted to have it more like a real band. So except for the two guest soloists, it's always the same four guys playing on all the songs. And I only gave them guidelines of what the structure of the song is, but I told each of them, show your own voice and play the stuff as you would like to play it. And so because I think that's very important and makes the music very dynamic. In the beginning I had the songs demoed with programmed drums and programmed bass, and it was just very basic, and then I was like, bring it to life, because I don't really like that type of production nowadays where everything is like overproduced, and the bass and drums sound like complete like computers, and I want to have a little bit more dynamic, and I told them play the way that you would like to play a song, as long as you stick to the style of the song.
Absolutely. And what about your face melting neoclassical leads? I mean, it's so phenomenal to hear. I was actually surprised because I was listening to Jason Becker's and Jason Becker's Marty Friedman song Horrors from Marty Friedman's album. And then I started listening to your album, and I could somehow feel that he has been your influence, Everybody knows
of
that.
course.
So in terms of the neoclassical solos on the album, they are intense and powerfully driven by by your riffs as well. So perfectly of complementing stuff.
What do you mean?
Perfect. You perfectly complemented your neoclassical leads, and then that entire vibe into a song reminded me of as if the Jason Becker is on the record.
Oh wow! I mean that's a huge comment. I think I'm nowhere near that level of Jason. It's like, because when he did stuff when he was half the age that I am right now, that I will never be able to do, and it's unbelievable to imagine where this guy would be nowadays if he hadn't got struck by that disease. So I mean it's an honor for me to hear that like his influence showed through my music, and he's definitely been a huge inspiration. But I think in terms of, I think he was really like a prodigy, and he could do things no one else can do. And I mean, I'm happy if like a couple of his influences show through my playing, but I personally would never place myself in that same league.
I understand.
I think that was something that's a player like that is something that comes up like once in
a blue moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was even having a chat with Marty Friedman, and when we were discussing about Jason Becker's song, he was like, this, even though he doesn't play guitar, he has reached a different level of songwriting.
Yes.
And it's difficult to match him. There's so many guitarists over there who can't even imagine to play like him. But it's really great that somebody's adding his own touch, even though they are your own influences as well.
Yeah.
And now you have a lot of bands. I mean, I still wonder while listening to the album, how did you manage to divide the stuff? I mean, you had Necrophages, Obscura, Spawn of Possession, Hatred, Metal Force, Terrestrial Exile.
Exactly, I mean, a lot of bands. I mean, most of those bands, I mean, many of those bands I'm not anymore like in Necrophages or Metal Force, those bands. But when I was in those bands, I mean, I wasn't really a songwriter, It was even in the beginning of Obscura, it was like in the like 10 years ago or something. I was happy with just being like the guitar player in the band, like just playing and stuff, and maybe adding my own solos. But I wasn't really so much of a writer. I was still in the process of developing my writing skills. And it's just that in the last 5 or 6 years that I felt the need to express myself as a songwriter. And of the bands that I'm in nowadays, I mean, in Spawn of Possession, Paradox, I don't write any of the music. I just add the solos to the albums. And in Obscura, I mean, I write a song here and there in bits and pieces, but of course everybody writes in that band. So and of course there were a couple of ideas maybe on the new record and on the one before as well that would also have possibly been Obscura tunes. But it's for me when I'm in the process of writing for something, I say, okay, now I want to write this record, then I just write for that record. And then once it's done, and then I focus on a new project, like maybe a new Obscura album or whatever.
Absolutely.
So it's basically, I'm pretty much in the zone then and just work on that particular project I have in mind. Then, and when this is done, then I focus on the next steps, because I think it can get very exhausting to work on several things.
You basically focus one project at a time.
Yes,
absolutely. Now you also love a lot of old school, power thrash, heavy metal stuff.
Yes,
more when compared to death metal.
Absolutely.
I've also read that that like, do you sometimes wish to play in a band that plays your favorite genre? Well,
actually, I'm in the process right now of forming a new band like that.
Okay. Is it the progressive band with clean vocals and old school style music?
Yes, it's going to be a neoclassical power metal band.
Awesome.
With a clean vocalist, and I'm planning this project together with Daniel Galmarina. It was the keyboard player who played on my first record, because he's also a really great composer, and we are in the process of, we want to put up a band like that, that's like maybe could compare it a little bit to like maybe like it has like that neoclassical influence of like bands Symphony X and Stradivarius and Malmsteen and stuff like that, and combined a little bit more with like heavier edge, heavier like US power thrash metal riffs and elements in there, and some catchy choruses and stuff like that. I mean, it's not decided yet who is going to be in the band and everything, but we're right now in the process of collecting songs, and I think so far I have written at least like 7 songs already. And I hope that this project will see the light of day maybe next year.
Wonderful. Now you have Obscura. I'm sure you guys are working on some stuff, so might be releasing an album maybe later this year or early next year. And then you're
Yes.
also part of Paradox.
Yes.
Yeah, so
But that band is not very active right now. I mean, the last thing I did was to record the solos, and I record we're not like playing any shows or tours right now. So it's very easy for me to plan things ahead like that. It's like, because not all of the bands are going full time
Right.
all the time. So that makes it easier for me. But I think right now that I'm at a point where it's more important for me to express myself as a writer than to be like a sideman or
right,
something.
I understand that.
So I've gotten some more offers, and I'm like feeling right now more like turning them down in order to be able to focus more
Wonderful.
on my own stuff. I think.
Wonderful. Now, what about the fans? I mean, your Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign just went berserk, and so many people contributed. So there are fans of all of your projects who follow you, who have been your fans,
Yes.
or who are influenced by you. Was it kind of expected that it's going to meet the target very soon, or was it like?
No, not at all. I mean, I set a quite modest amount because I really wasn't sure, because I know that instrumental guitar music is not like the most popular genre in the world, of course, and I also know that many of the fans of the bands that I'm in
Right.
are not so much into my solo stuff, because, as you said, it's closer to power metal or thrash than it is to maybe like death or black metal,
Sure.
and many fans of the heavier stuff that I do are probably not so much into it. So I really had no idea of how it would go, because and then I was really happy to see that I made like 150% of the goal that I
right.
set, and it's cool. I mean, it was probably like 230 people or something, and most of them, it's like nowadays through Facebook. That's cool,
Yeah.
because sometimes you chat with them and you always see when I post a video or a song who's giving feedback and who's writing, and I feel like I know all
Yeah,
of the fans, I know
you've been
who they-
communicating
I
with
know
them.
their favorite music and stuff. I know what they like, because the people who like my music, I always assume they're probably people who like the same stuff, to hear the same stuff in music that I like to hear. So
It's
a bit of a connection
right.
there.
It's
So-
wonderful to stay in touch with the fans. It kind of makes you feel even better as a musician to be in touch with the fans, and they expect a lot from you as well. So, in terms of that, is the focal dystonia still bothering you? I don't think so, because
Well-
you just seem to get better due to this, to be honest.
Yes, I mean I still have it, of course, but yes, yeah, I think I've done a lot of research and retraining since 2012, and I think that my condition now, I improved it to back to 70 or 80% of
Awesome.
where I was before the onset of. I think in 2012, like at the worst point, like my left hand ability was probably reduced to 30% of where it had been before. Nowadays it's looking really good. I can use my second finger again for most faster passages, and I have a feeling it's constantly getting better, and I even can do some things that I could never do before. Like I
Right.
can even do things now that I couldn't even do before the dystonia.
Right.
So I learned a lot about like healthy movement and healthy technique through my retraining lessons.
Awesome.
So I basically think that it looks very positive, and also like the doctor I'm working with is very happy about it, and my therapist is. So I think it's going in the right direction, even though it's probably still going to take a while.
Right. I'm really glad to hear that. Now, how's been the journey from a person who used to play piano when you were young to
Yes.
one of the most well-established guitar players? How has been this journey till now?
Well, I haven't been like very serious about piano playing. Not really like a really good piano player. No, I mean I had piano lessons when I was a kid.
Right.
But I didn't really like it so much, and so I quit again. But I still remembered the basics of how it works. And then when I started playing guitar, I taught myself to play piano a little bit, and I can play some easy things like maybe like the C major prelude by Bach or things like that. But I'm not really what you would call like an accomplished piano player or something.
Okay.
But it was when I was like 11 years old or 10, and I got like into like heavy metal stuff.
Right.
Guitar was more interesting to me. So basically, I don't really consider myself a piano player, but more like a guitar player who knows how the piano works, but
Absolutely.
not really trained with it very well.
That's awesome. Now, everybody has been talking about, is there a plan for you to, play your solo material live?
I wish, but that's the problem is that is logistically it's very tough to do, because I mean, of course I could always play with a backing track, and I might do that for some guitar clinics or something where I could go on my own. So,
Right.
but when I have like a full band playing and it's all like full-time musicians, then I of course would have to pay them a certain fee. You have to pay for accommodation, for food, for transportation.
Right.
And for the very small genre that it is, I mean, I try to set up some gigs, but it's looking really difficult, at least if I want to do it with a real band.
Okay.
So as much as this is my dream, I mean, it would be my dream to maybe play a support tour for like Alpine or something, but for now it doesn't look very realistic, I think. I mean, I might do some guitar clinics probably, but I think playing live with a full band, as much as I would like to, doesn't look very realistic at that point, at least.
That's awesome. Now that brings me to the question: is Christian Muenzner aware of a metal scene in India, or aware of your own followers in India?
Well, I mean, I can see it on Facebook, for example, where I always see where the most feedback comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And India is definitely in the top countries, where most feedback comes from. I could also tell from when we played show, and we haven't played in India so far, but I remember from, I mean, once we played in Norway, and there was someone from an Indian magazine, and we did an interview there. It was like in 2010. He told us a little bit about the scene there, and that there seems to be like a huge following. And also think I talked to some people from India when we were on our Southeast Asia tour, and I could tell that the general level of understanding for music-related things is way higher than would be in Europe, which is probably the reason that like technically advanced stuff probably has a bigger impact there.
Correct.
So it's definitely, I mean, when I see that, I would say, well, it would make a lot of sense for me personally not to play in India, because that would be definitely a way better following than if I would play somewhere here in Germany or something, you know.
I understand that. So that there's a possibility of an Obscura releasing an album, so a tour followed by the album might lead you to India. So that'll really be great. I
mean, sure. I mean, where the offers are, definitely. I mean, it's something we heard many times, that there seems to be like a good scene, and I would be curious to check it out, you know.
That's awesome. So a simple question for you. I don't know whether it's too early or maybe, nothing has been started. So what's with Obscura? What's happening? Is the new material been, progressing?
Yeah, I mean, we got together to like collect ideas, and everybody wrote a couple of tunes for the record, and then we're still like outlining the final details.
Okay.
And then we'll see where it goes from there. But it's too early yet to tell anything.
Okay.
Definite, So it's nothing is in the final stages yet.
Okay, so possible 2015 release?
Probably yes.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now there are so many guitarists out there. You know them personally, and then there are so many fans out there who are picking up the guitars and learning. So if they want to know any words of wisdom out there, so you can shoot them across.
Well, I would say words of wisdom for guitar players, for me, it would be like try to figure things out on your own, Do not always try to do everything only by tablature or learning it from YouTube, but really sit down with a recording and try figuring out the stuff on your own, because that's what I did over the years, and what many of my heroes did, because back then there was no other way to do it. And even if you figure out things wrong, but you understand them on a deeper level, and it leads earlier to like an own approach to the instrument, because that's what I see a lot nowadays with the young kids. All of them have really, really good chops, and with chops like that back in the 90s, you would have been considered like a virtuoso with the stuff and that level days,
Right.
But what many of them lack is like to play actual music, So and I also have a feeling that what we wanted when we were younger, like to release albums and be in a band and play live shows, that this demand is not even there so much anymore by the kids. They rather want to have a video and show that they got good technique. But I think playing music is so much more, and I really always tell my students, get together with other musicians, play in bands, get out there, don't just play a guitar in the bedroom, and really make music and do your own stuff,
That's absolute. Now, I'll end the interview on a very, very short note, basically, is to ask you a question to define your solo album in just one sentence.
You mean my new record?
Yes.
Like how I would define it?
Yes, how you would define it in a sentence. How would Christian Muenzner define Beyond the Wall of Sleep in a sentence?
Wow. It's quite difficult. I haven't really thought about that so much.
That's the idea.
I would say, I mean, I like to see it like that. I would like to see it like, I would say it's an instrumental album, but not only for the
sake of it,
guitar player, but really for the average music and metal fan who's into good music.
Wow. Well, now
at least it was my idea with the record. I don't know if that comes across, because mostly I get feedback from guitar players, but at least that was my intention with the record. So we'll see.
Wonderful, Christian. Thank you so much. You spared your precious time. We had a power failure. You waited for it. Thank you, Sibu.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.